What's Phil like to be around, you know?
Well, I have to just start this by saying that I owe just about everything to him because my entire life changed after I got into that band. I moved into a different orbit in the music business on account of getting in his band. And so I always owe him my first allegiance and would still do it again if the chance came up.
Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Henry Andersen, and welcome to another episode of Conversations for Convergence, a curious podcast exploring myriad topics including music and the arts, athletics, high performance, and creativity in all sorts of forms. Today's guest is Brad Cole. Brad is a pianist, keyboard player, composer, arranger, and singer who has recorded and performed with some of the biggest names on earth, including Phil Collins, Frank Zappa, Supertramp, Johnny Mathis, and countless others. He attended Hartt School of Music in Hartford, Connecticut, where he studied piano, voice, and conducting before moving to Los Angeles in the late 1970s, where he got his start in the music industry. Over the course of his multifaceted and quite impressive career, he's performed on some of the world's largest stages, including an appearance with Phil Collins for the Super Bowl XXXIV halftime show. He's collected many stories from the road and is a wealth of knowledge. In this episode, we get into Brad's early years as a musician, how he landed the gig with Phil Collins, some deep dives into the world of Phil's band, and some exciting and nerve-wracking live performances. Working with musicians like Frank Zappa and Lionel Richie, Brad's advice to up-and-coming musicians, dealing with rejection and imposter syndrome, how AI is changing the music industry for the worse, and maybe for the better too, Brad's forthcoming book about all of his adventures throughout his career, my recommendation for him to check out fellow Nashville pianist and songwriter Ben Folds and his book, A Dream About Lightning Bugs, and plenty of other fun topics. And to say I enjoyed this chat with Brad would be quite an understatement. He was indeed an awesome hang, and as you'll hear during the conversation, he graciously offered a part 2 to our discussion, which we continued on another day, as there was so much we hadn't covered yet by the end of our initial time slot. I really hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as we did. Well, Brad Cole, thank you so much for joining me this, I guess it's this afternoon in Nashville.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it all week.
Awesome.
Anyway, since yesterday. But yeah, it's a treat. I've always admired your stuff that you did with Daryl Sturmer. So that's how I know you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, so whatever you want to talk about, I won't just deny it all.
Fantastic. Sounds good, man. So I know we met in Daryl's rehearsal basement. I'm trying to think, did we meet any other time? Or just that once? I
don't think so. I don't think I've seen you in concert, for example. I know you were in Nashville a few years back doing a house concert here.
Yeah.
And for one reason or another, I couldn't come. I was either out of town or something or other. But I know you've been close by. We've been adjacent at least.
Yes, well, it's...
So the next time you come in to do a house concert, I'll make sure to be there.
Awesome. Well, obviously so many things to talk about today. I wonder if you could just give the audience kind of a general background of, your musical career, how you got started in music, and maybe just start there at the beginning.
I started as a clarinet player in, I think it was 4th grade, maybe even 2nd grade. That had to be 2nd grade. And that came first. So I learned how to read music and everything on that first, and played in bands first, high school bands and so forth.
Sure.
Piano came along around 1964.
Okay.
So I've been playing ever since then. And I did go to a music conservatory, the Hartt School of Music in Hartford, Connecticut, and got a degree in music education, because I was too cowardly to commit to any particular performance track, like vocals. I was actually going in as a vocalist, because I had a run doing a bunch of musicals in high school where I thought I was such a hot shot singer. Can I say hot shit on this?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want, man.
Okay.
You can get profane if the spirit calls you.
Hot merd. I thought I was hot merd until I got to music school. And within about a week, I discovered that there were so many guys who already sounded like Pavarotti that there was no chance for me to ever sound like that. So I switched my major to piano.
Okay.
And in my time at Hartt, I studied piano, voice, and conducting, which were all three came in totally useful after I got out. Spent a year kicking around Connecticut after school, and then went to LA in 1978 and did the usual lounge circuit the first year. Then got an audition for Gino Vanelli in 1979 and got that gig. If some of your younger listeners can look him up. He's an amazing artist from the 70s, Gino Vanelli, Vannelli, an absolute pioneer in synth arranging. And
didn't Daryl play with Gino Vanelli too, or what? Wasn't there some connection?
Yeah, that's where
there?
I met him.
Oh, okay.
That was the next leg of the story is that Daryl was the guitar player in that band. And we got to be really good friends and stayed friends. And it was through that friendship that I finally connected up with Phil in 1990. After seeing Genesis many times over the course of the 80s, they all knew me personally by that time. So in 1990, his regular keyboard player, Peter Robinson, had decided not to tour anymore. And Daryl recommended me, and there were a bunch of faxes and phone calls and cassette demos going back and forth and all that. And he hired me without an audition. So
wow, just on Daryl's recommendation, huh?
Yeah. So Daryl was on probation for about a year while I was. That's not a lie. He was, every time I did something wrong, Daryl would get yelled at.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Or Phil would at least look at Daryl like, what the hell is he doing back there?
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And Daryl felt like he was responsible for me, like he was my sponsor or something. Yeah. And he finally got out from under that after the first year. But
well, I'd say it worked out pretty well for Daryl, for you, and for Phil. So no regrets there.
Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't known Daryl, I don't know if I would have had the chance to audition, or even if there was an audition. They don't usually audition musicians. Phil never did. He just took people's recommendations and then hired. But at least in my case, I must have done good because he kept me around until 2019.
Yeah.
And we finished our touring careers in 2019 with 3 years of off and on touring with Phil. And then he retired from his solo band, did a tour with Genesis as a farewell Genesis tour, and then retired entirely from music. So he's no longer performing and has no plans to perform or record or actually anything. In the meantime, while all that was going on, I was still working in LA doing sessions for people. I got did a lot of records in LA as a keyboard player and also as an arranger. And some of the other bands I played with in those days were Supertramp, the jazz group Hiroshima, and my favorite, Donnie and Marie Osmond, in 1983 to 1986. Some of the happiest memories of complete stupidity were playing in a Donnie and Marie Osmond band because there were no rules. We just had fun on stage and off, and it was just like going back to kindergarten, really.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, I got an audition with Frank Zappa, and
oh my goodness,
of all things, because I happened to know Chad Wackerman was Frank's drummer at the time. Got me on audition with Zappa, and I took it because I knew there was no chance in the knowable universe that I would get this gig. So I figured, how can I lose? I could just have a good story to tell when it was over. So all he wanted to talk about, Frank, all he wanted to talk about was Donnie and Marie. It was like he had this fetish about how wacky Donnie and Marie are. And he just peppered me with questions about Donnie and Marie. And somehow or other, I passed the audition and he wanted to hire me. And I freaked out.
So what year was that, roughly?
That was 1984.
Okay.
Now, getting the Zappa gig was like the primo par excellence gig in LA at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, only the best of the best ever played with Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got it, I absolutely freaked out because I just didn't believe that I was capable of it, and that sooner or later, and probably sooner, he would find out that I was not capable of doing it.
So it's like an imposter syndrome thing.
Completely. Yeah. And I decided to pass, which is just heretical. You just don't do it. But he was kind enough, and apparently he liked me enough to put me on one of his records on one track.
Mhm.
So I got a little bonus out of it. Plus, I got a fantastic story.
And what track is that, by the way? So I can go.
It's on
and
an
listen
album
also.
called Them and Us.
Okay.
It's about 1980. Well, I guess it came out in 84. And the track is called Be in My Video. There's a YouTube video of it at the time. Be in My Video. It's one of his silly kind of parody songs or commentary songs. It's just kind of ridiculous. And it's kind of a doo-woppy track with this real florid, over-the-top Liberace style piano stuff. When we finished cutting it, he came up to me and said, "You're the perfect guy for this song." I thought, I am? I mean, I don't want to be the perfect guy who plays like Liberace. That's not where I'm heading in my career. So I said, thank you, I think.
So this actually gets me thinking a bit. We were talking about auditions and playing with Phil Collins and Frank Zappa and a number of artists that you've had the privilege of playing with over the years. And obviously you studied music. There's no doubt that you're an incredibly accomplished performer, but I wonder if you could talk about how sort of vibe and personality and sort of musical preferences affect that sort of audition situation, right? Because whether you're playing with Frank Zappa or Phil Collins or whoever it is, it's not necessarily that the center of the bullseye for those artists is to find necessarily the most technically incredible player.
That's correct.
Of course, you need to be very good, but there's more to it than that, right? And
oh yeah, keep in mind that on any tour, it's the other 22 hours that you're not on stage that you have to fit in those 22 hours. So there's a lot more going on off stage in terms of personality and friendliness and attitude and ego and all that, versus the 2 hours on stage when you're just kicking it musically. We all assume we can all do it musically. That's kind of a given, or you wouldn't even be there trying for it. And they're just reading you out to see what kind of a person you are. And in Frank's case, his whole thing was all about flexibility. And he was challenging me in the audition to see how I reacted to really wild musical suggestions that would just throw people off the rails trying to do it. I love that stuff. So I just took the whole thing as a real fun challenge to do. And that was kind of what he was looking for. I think most artists want to feel like whoever they hire, they can be comfortable with as much off stage as on. Sure. And they may make compromises in the musical capability of a performer or a sideman if their personality is a better fit.
Right.
So I know I'm not the world's greatest keyboard player. There are plenty of guys I know personally who are way better than me technically. Mm-hmm. But I seem to have had luck over the course of my career in getting along with people. Sure. And it's really important. And the magic line in that is getting along without appearing to know that you're trying to get along.
Sure.
It has to be invisible. And you have to just kind of be natural and just chill. Chilling is like the most important thing.
Sure.
It did take me a while to figure that out, but
because I imagine in those situations, and I haven't been in certainly as many as you have, but there's this temptation, especially if you really want the gig, right? That you want to be as impressive as you can be, but at the same time, speaking to what you were just saying, you also just have to be who you actually are. Like it's either going to be a good fit or not. Right.
They can tell when you're acting.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I mean, when I went through a phase of auditions in the middle 80s where I wasn't getting anything. Every one I took, I didn't get. But some of them were ridiculous. I auditioned for David Lee Roth one time. And I was not the right person for that under anybody's definition of it. I didn't look like the right person. I didn't sing like the right person, but I could play like the right person.
Right.
But they were more interested in what kind of a rock and roll voice I had, and I didn't have one.
Right.
So I was just going for whatever at that time because I was out of the Donnie and Marie band and in between things. And The one I had the most luck with was Lionel Richie, and I almost got the tour Dancing on the Ceiling tour in 1986.
Okay.
And I was just beaten out by a very fine singer-songwriter named Michael Ruff,
Okay.
who had a beautiful, beautiful voice and already had a deal on Warner Brothers and was almost more known as a singer-songwriter than as a keyboard player.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, the vocals were more important than the keyboard playing, even though
Sure.
Lionel liked my keyboard playing. And again, I got a consolation prize. I got to play on his next record.
I was just going to ask about that because I did see he was listed on your website.
I did
credits.
the record called Back to Front. I think it's called Back to Front. 19, what would that have been? 87 or 8.
Okay.
86,
cool.
Something like that.
Nice.
So I mean, I did get along really well, and it's really sort of like a black art auditions. You may do everything just right.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's some chemical reason why it ain't happening, there's nothing you can really do about it.
Sure.
You can't get upset about it. You just have to accept it and move on. So my advice to anybody trying for this is toughen up your skin, because rejection comes to anybody and everybody, actually, at one time or another.
Yeah.
And how you deal with it can help determine how successful you ultimately will be.
Man,
and
that's great
took
advice.
a while. I mean, it just doesn't happen instantly. The first time I was rejected, I went to bed for 3 days and stayed there. And it comes with time and maturity, and you kind of figure out, you get more experience working with people, and you kind of understand the psychology of it. So much of working in the music business is psychological, and the more successful people that I've worked with do that, pay attention to that, but they pay attention in a sort of an invisible way. You don't see them doing it, but they are doing it. They're just massaging egos just the right way, holding hands with people just the right way, and just finessing just the right way.
Sure.
And on the other hand, there are people I know who do this, but they're really obvious about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks a little bogus when it's too obvious. But
so this is kind of a bizarre question, but do you actually see that sort of like behavior appear more and less in other cities? I just want to throw out an idea that, or certain music scenes. This is some people are going to hate me for even suggesting this, but it is obviously not true across the board, but I've gotten a little more of that opportunistic, obviously opportunistic, like no bones about it, opportunistic vibe in LA. Whereas in other cities, haven't spent a ton of time in Nashville, but in other cities, whether it's New York or Chicago or whatever, sometimes, of course, everybody's trying to have work and have success and do what they love, but it seems maybe a little more organic and collaborative, where sometimes
I think it is.
The sense in LA, it's like, man, if you can't do something for me in the next 10 minutes, I'm talking to somebody else.
It got to be sort of like the more inside I got, and then the higher up in the food chain I got in LA, the more I saw a certain kind of attitude in some people, particularly session musicians, where there was a certain amount of cynicism going on, where it was kind of uncool to be enthusiastic about what you were doing.
I fucking hate that attitude, man.
And I saw that quite a bit. So the projects that I would be like thanking God that I was on, the other guys were just making fun of it and calling it shit, and on the phone finding out about the next gig. And I never could play that game.
I'm glad.
So I was considered a little square in some respects out there. But I did see quite a bit of that in LA, and it's higher up in the food chain where the competition is more fierce.
Yeah.
That people just armor up that way.
Yeah.
So it's a defense mechanism, I think. And kind of not a very pleasant thing to deal with, but it's there. Yeah. And then some of the people who do it a lot, when the red light goes on, they totally deliver. So I mean, they have the credibility of being an absolutely superb musician to back themselves up, but some of their behavior is not. It could be better.
Well, at the end of the day, even if you're able to execute, I would say this is, of course, just my own personal perspective, but you have to live with being the type of human being who's kind of an asshole. And frankly, I don't think anything's worth that. And I also see enough people in all sorts of different areas in life, whether it be music or athletics or science or politics or whatever. There's such a variance, and there are people who are truly amazing and ethical and beautiful and collaborative. And there are also those who are not any of those qualities. And I certainly do not believe that you have to be the type of person you're describing to have success. And I wouldn't want to be that type of person if that was a requirement anyway.
Well, when I got to know Lee Sklar, I found a person who is the complete opposite of that. He's as humble and real as a person can be, and as legendary as a musician can be. I mean, this guy's history is so deep. He's light years away from other people of the same generation. Very humble. He has no imposter syndrome or any of that kind of stuff. He's very much aware of his talents, but you can talk to him like anybody. He will talk to anybody about anything at any time with no ego whatsoever. It's pretty remarkable. He's one of the nicest people I know.
You're not the first to say that. Daryl says that too, and I'm so glad to hear that, because
it's true.
He is such a monster personality. It would suck to find out that he's not really like that.
Yeah, when I got to know him, I was frightened of him because he was such a legend. Mm-hmm. I just didn't know what to say. I was like, one of those. And as we did the first Phil tour together, we got to be really good buddies, and I just was astounded at how natural and unaffected by his fabulous successes. I mean, he is a seminal force in pop music going back to the late 60s, early 70s, when this stuff was just being invented, the post Wrecking Crew era, when it was the Laurel Canyon crowd in LA, the Joni Mitchells, the Jackson Browns, the James Taylors, that crowd. He was right in there on the ground floor with that stuff and invented a whole lyrical style of bass playing. And you ask him about it, and it's just something he did at the time. It's just a gig. I mean, he's aware of how great it was, but he's not coasting on any laurels. He doesn't have to.
Humble and self-assured.
Humble. He doesn't have to prove a thing to anybody. Yeah. And I consider him one of my best friends. He's just a lovely guy. And
isn't he on like 2,500 recordings or something ridiculous like that? Yeah.
I don't even think he even knows how many he's on. But
I might have seen that stat years ago already. So
I think that's probably more than that by now. Yeah. But I mean, he's never not worked. I just look at it that way.
Yeah.
He probably turns down more work than he gets on a daily basis. But most of the people I've been lucky enough to know personally at that level have been like him for the most part. They're just regular guys who were at the right place at the right time with the right talent.
Yeah.
And they just handle their success with a minimum of ego, I think. Right. And it's a pleasure to talk to them because they're just so down to earth. It's the difference between an artist and a professional musician, is the way I describe it. Artists are required to be like off-center and quirky and individualistic and sort of write their own rules and do their own thing. And people like Leland and hopefully like me in some respects and some other guys like us, Daryl, who work with a lot of different people, we are required to deliver what the person who hired us is asking for. And not feel like we have to impose what we want to do on something too much. I mean, they hired you because you do your thing, whatever it is.
Sure.
But they don't want you not to do their thing. So that's the main difference between an artist and I hate the word sideman because that's so old-fashioned, but like a professional working musician who does sessions and movies and TV shows and all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
And it requires a different personality. And that's why I could never be an artist. I don't have that thing, whatever it is. And the way I describe it to people is when you're an artist, you have to believe you have to believe 100% in what you're doing when it's in the shit stage, because everything starts out in the shit stage and it just gets better.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not Michelangelo here. We don't just chip away and there's a masterpiece. You have to kind of flog at it for a while to get it to happen.
Yeah.
And you have to believe in it when it stinks in the beginning. Yeah. And I've never had that ability to do that. If something stunk in the beginning, it was in the trash can immediately.
Brad, are you aware of Ben Folds, who also lives in Nashville? Because I did a songwriting workshop with him, and sorry to interrupt you. I just was thinking this reminded me of a metaphor he was using in this workshop, which was basically talking about this faucet that starts running with brown water, basically, as a creator, a songwriter. Pardon me. But you just have to go through that. And then eventually the water clears and you get to the good stuff. But there's no way to circumvent that dirty water process. And it just, anyway, what you were saying reminded me of that.
Oh, that's an excellent metaphor, because you have to know that eventually it'll clear.
Yeah.
And something good will emerge. But in order
you got to hang on until then,
you have to have enough faith in yourself to know that when it's brown coming out of the tap, that it won't be brown indefinitely. Yeah. And that you will be able to make it clear.
Sure.
That was something that I had struggled with for a long, long time, is my belief in my abilities to do things. Like you mentioned, the imposter syndrome. I think I had a pretty profound case of that for quite a long time. Always thinking I was going to be found out. And even though everybody was happy with my work and hired me back and I was doing fine, I was so busy getting in my own way that it started to become really apparent. At one point, I got advised by a producer to just knock it off, because it was really hindering my ability to be a collaborator with people.
And delusional on some level. I mean, obviously, you've made it well past the point to know that maybe that imposter syndrome, some part of that, I think I think there's some part of it that might be somewhat helpful, but there's a point where it's ridiculous and debilitating. It's like, no, Brad, you're obviously a fantastic musician. There's no way you would have these opportunities.
It was debilitating for me in like the middle 80s or so. And it just it was, part of, I had bouts of depression and anxiety. I did therapy and medication and all that stuff that you do in LA, particularly. Yep. But I kept thinking maybe I'm right and they're wrong. And I couldn't shake that. But I was able to pretend that I didn't have it long enough to get the gigs.
Right.
And then I would do the gigs and the gigs would go fine and I would be accepted perfectly well. And with Phil, for example, he had no quibbles with me and just told me at the end of the first tour that I had the gig for life if I wanted it.
That's amazing.
And I felt like saying, "Are you sure? Don't you know? What's the matter with you? Don't you understand?
He's going to find out about me.
He's going to find out. Yeah, any minute now." Yeah. And so you have to wean off of that, and I did eventually. And it does make life a whole lot easier not to think that way.
Yeah. So a couple things I wanted to ask you, going way back to the beginning. So you started on, did you say clarinet?
Mm-hmm.
So clarinet, then you moved to piano. When you were studying piano, actually even starting with clarinet, was this something where you just showed up to school and it was that day where everybody tries the instruments, or do you have musical parents? Was there any incentive to do this, or was this kind of just a chance? Like all of a sudden, Brad's a musician.
Exactly remember how I came to want to play an instrument, but I remember getting taken to the music store by my father, and they had all the band instruments up on the wall, kind of in the display, all the brass and woodwinds and everything. And he said, "Okay, what do you want to play?" And he was standing there tapping his foot, looking at his watch, like, "Come on, kid, make up your mind." And I panicked and I picked clarinet because I knew somebody else who played one. Thus is your life determined.
Oh, man. All the moments like that.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. And so that's how it came to be clarinet. And that's how I learned to read music. And I didn't play clarinet. I didn't ever think of being professional on clarinet or any of the woodwinds that I played, sax and other clarinets and flute and stuff. But I did end up using the saxophone professionally in two tours, one with Gino and one with Supertramp, if you can imagine such a thing. I played
Man.
tenor sax with Supertramp on
What
a tour.
cool band. I was actually really curious. You studied piano. Now, were you focusing on classical music? Were you focusing on jazz? Was it composition based? What was the focus there?
Well, because I was a music ed major. Within a music ed major, you have to declare an emphasis, and kept the vocal emphasis and kept studying voice. But my teacher was a jazz pianist, and he believed in training the kids in every aspect of music, including commercial music. So as it turned out, he was the right guy for me at the right time. And we would play classical stuff, just regular piano training, but he didn't believe in sitting up in an ivory tower playing Beethoven sonatas for the rest of your life to no audience and making no money. So we would play stuff for half the lesson, and the other half would just read tunes out of the real book. And it's the first time I saw the real book was in my piano lessons with him.
Can you tell our audience what the real book is?
The real book is a collection of standard, like the Great American Songbook tunes, sure, jazz tunes, some modern like jazz rock tunes or fusion stuff. It's a big collection of tunes with just the melody and the chords given for every song, sometimes lyrics, so that you can play something that you may not even know by just reading this. And it's what everybody plays in my era in the old days when we used to all get together and jam, which is how we used to meet people and back in the days before internet. Yeah. You'd read stuff out of the real book. So you'd play, What's New or So What or any of these classic Miles Davis tunes. You just jam, just play stuff. And that's what the real book is. And the real book now is a gigantic franchise there's like 3 or 4 of them that you can get them for different transposing instruments. You can get them with vocals and lyrics. They have specialty ones for genres, like New Orleans style real book, that kind of thing. Very useful for any pianist or any instrumentalist who wants to broaden their knowledge of the many, many thousands and thousands of tunes that are out there from our long history of popular music in the United States. You really should own these and play through them, even if you don't learn the songs. At least know that they're there, and that you can turn to them. But anyway, in the these piano lessons, as it turned out, this teacher has an amazing track record with his students. This man's name was Charles Gigliotti. He was a teacher at Hartt College in Connecticut. One of his students was Tommy Mariano, later known as Tommy Mars, who was Frank Zappa's keyboard player for 5 or 6 years. Just a pure genius of a guy. One was a woman named Dawn Atkinson, who went on to be a producer at Windham Hill, which was a kind of a new
album,
age,
right? Or a record company, yeah, record label.
Yeah, Windham Hill. They did a lot of new agey kind of stuff back in the 80s. One of them, it was named Timothy Stella, and Timothy became a major pianist in New York City, doing Broadway and vocal coaching, rehearsal piano, that kind of stuff. One of them was, as I've mentioned him before, Michael Ruff, who was a singer-songwriter who beat me out of the Lionel Richie gig. But all of these people had careers because they wanted to be in the commercial music business, and they had the right teacher for that, because many of the other piano teachers did not encourage their students to play that stuff. Right. But therefore, they were unprepared to play jazz or play any other style of music other than classical. Right. And therefore, they couldn't improvise. They couldn't sight read chord charts and things like that. Charlie was a different animal there. He was an outlier. He just taught his kids to get ready for work. Yeah. And in order to get ready for work, you got to know all the different genres and the styles. Sure. And Charlie could play classical music brilliantly. He also played early music. He played harpsichord brilliantly, but he was a typical professional musician. He played all the different styles, and he was a great jazz piano player. Wow.
That's amazing.
I was so lucky in school. I got just the right teachers in all three of my subjects.
Yeah.
Voice, conducting, and piano. I got just the right people for me.
Yeah.
So I was incredibly lucky with that.
Yeah.
And it does count. It does matter who you get, because that teacher will kind of shape your outlook.
Oh, it's absolutely pivotal, isn't it? And it's one of those moments early on in life that at that point you don't even realize how pivotal it is. But if it sends you 15 degrees in a certain direction, or it completely gives you a reframe as far as your aperture for what the world looks like and what music looks like, it's your whole course of your whole life is different.
My conducting teacher was an older gentleman from Lithuania. He had escaped the Nazis during World War II by actually on foot over a mountain out of Lithuania.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a great backstory, but he was the musical director and conductor of the Lithuania State Opera at one point. And so he was an old school conductor of the late 19th century, early 20th century style. I learned conducting from a guy who probably knew many of these conductors like Bruno Walter and others who were born late in the 19th century. So I learned a more traditional style of conducting from him.
Yeah.
Very, very, very effective, because a lot of the younger teachers had all these mannerisms they were teaching, and this guy didn't. He was all about clarity in the conducting. And as you find out in the studio, clarity is what it's entirely all about.
Do you find that your background as a conductor helped you when working in kind of the pop rock world?
A lot.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I have a very basic understanding of conducting. I never studied it in depth, but I find myself sometimes, even when I'm just trying to master maybe not even particularly complicated rhythms, but certain parts that are giving me some sort of challenge, I'm doing like whatever the beat pattern is. Usually it's 4, right? And it's knowing where that is sort of is easier to me, or more intuitive to know where the upbeats are. And
all three of the things I studied had effect on each other, and had an effect on my career in commercial music after school. So definitely. I because I was taught by the right teacher, I didn't come out of there waving my arms around like Leonard Bernstein. I just realized he was sort of like a no bullshit conductor. Just his beat was just really simple and clear. And that did help later on when I had a chance to conduct on certain situations in the studio, for sure in the studio, but also working as an MD on different bands.
The click track is not ambiguous, is it?
It is not ambiguous. And if you ever watch videos of studio conductors versus conductors of symphony orchestras who do not play to a click, there is sometimes a delay between the downbeat that you see and the downbeat that you hear.
Absolutely.
And that is the collective consciousness of the orchestra has decided collectively that they're going to be 20 milliseconds behind his downbeat.
It's maddening.
It's amazing. I mean, it's incredible to try to do. But in the studio, if you notice, the downbeat is where the downbeat is, because that's where the click is.
Yeah.
So a lot of conductors in the studios are right on the center of the beat point.
For sure.
And in classical music and in traditional symphony orchestras, it's up here. Even though that's where it is, they sound when the hands are up here. And I remember I saw the Philadelphia Orchestra one time, and the conductor was Eugene Ormandy, who had been conducting them for 30 some odd years or more. Came to Hartford, and my conducting teacher knew him, so he got us a master class with him. And I was, of course, like an eager puppy sitting at his feet asking questions and stuff. But that night we saw them do the Beethoven Third Symphony, and it starts with 2 big tutti fortissimo chords. Bum, bum, ba da 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 da. It's a very famous beginning.
I've played the piece. I started on viola, by the way, Brad. So in orchestra.
Okay, so you know. So when we saw them, this is what I saw and heard. Bum, Boom. That silence between what I saw and when they played was so loud to me. It just knocked me over.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that's what was going on. And then for the rest of the performance, his beat was slightly ahead of what I was hearing. Da, 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 da. Because the orchestra has a collective unconscious, I guess, or unconscious consciousness or whatever. So they have just decided psychologically, or even just without even thinking about it, that they will play the downbeat this many milliseconds behind where he puts it.
Roughly at the same time as each other. With just enough disparity to create the phase of the orchestra. So
it's incredible to really hear an orchestra that's played together for a long time, because they have their own mind.
Yeah.
It's an organism. Anyway, that stuff has all helped me in the commercial field.
Sure.
Not only with teaching people parts and stuff and working on the musical aspect of it, but also the psychological aspect of it. Sort of keeping in mind that even though I'm the musical director, it doesn't really mean anything in the long run, except for getting the job done and getting it done efficiently if possible. And also just achieving whatever the artist wants really was the main job of an MD.
Now, were you musical director for Phil Collins?
Yes. I mean, up to about 2010, I was sort of unofficially the musical director. And after 2010, I was officially, because he would let me run the rehearsals when he wasn't there. So, but up till that time, he was really in charge of everything.
Okay. So, I mean, and I want to take just a little bit of left turn. I know we don't have a ton more time. I wanted to ask you, again, this is going to be sort of a broad question, but obviously everybody's heard of Phil Collins. I'm personally a huge fan. Obviously, I know quite a bit about the workings of the band through Daryl, but I'm curious, certainly a lot of questions still remain. And also for the listeners, like, what kind of guy was Phil to work with as far as like, not only personality wise, but also kind of where did he sit as far as, you know, the balance between we're going to have a great time and we're going to be musicians, or things need to be done accurately. Like, how was that balance? And even just socially, you know, what's Phil like to be around, you know?
Well, I have to just start this by saying that I owe just about everything to him, because my entire life changed after I got into that band. I moved into a different orbit in the music business.
Sure.
On account of getting in his band. And so I always owe him my first allegiance, and would still do it again if the chance came up. In the beginning, Phil was more of a type A personality, where he had to just sort of run every detail of everything.
Okay.
And he would be always the first one at rehearsal and the last one to leave. And he was taking notes all the time and had a lot of suggestions. They weren't suggestions. They were more like, do this, do that. He was more interested in the show being well performed rather than us having fun learning how to do that. You know, we worked pretty hard in rehearsals so that when we did the shows, we could have fun, but not rehearsals was strictly business. And we used to rehearse a lot in the beginning. He could go a long time. He had a lot of staying power. Later on, he got less interested in that, and he would let go of some of the details to me to do, so he didn't have to show up all the time.
Now, we talking about horn lines and vocal parts, and what do we even mean by?
No, well, the horns did their own thing. They wrote their parts. Harry Kim was the trumpet player. He wrote all the arrangements for the most part after he got in the band. But I would help with it, particularly when we had to do songs in different keys. I would help some of the players get comfortable in the other keys. Daryl, for example, can play any song in any key.
He's a monster.
He's just that versatile. But one of the other people in the band, another guitar player, had a harder time doing that, because the guitar is not just move up or down 2 frets and you're a step down or up. It's a different thing. The voicings all change. And so I helped kind of navigate some of the technical lumps along the way. And did vocal rehearsals, helped the singers get together. Everybody seemed to do their own thing all their homework and they came in prepared and everybody knew what they were supposed to do. I just sort of tried to help them get it done quick.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah.
I only wrote a few what I would consider actual arrangements for Phil, particularly in the jazz big band things we did in the 90s.
Yeah.
I wrote a couple for that. And
that must have been a blast to kind of have a chance to, I guess, reinterpret
really
and orchestrate that stuff.
It was really, really fun. I go back and listen to that a lot. It was really quite good.
Yeah.
And it was a real treat to play that with players of that caliber, because these guys were all
the best.
Amazing. And we had Tony Bennett as a guest artist once, and we had here we go. By the way, folks, I'm almost 70, so I can't even remember my address.
You're doing great, man.
Olita Adams is who I'm trying to think of. We had her at one point as a guest artist. Yeah. And this was just pure and simple fun, particularly for me as a jazzer.
Yeah, that's cool.
Just to get to play that style and not get yelled at for playing jazz in a pop setting. Yeah. A lot of the responsibility in playing with Phil was what I didn't play. And I didn't get bored and start putting in interpretive voicings. Right. And a lot of it was very scripted. And in fact, it could have been written out on paper and played by anybody. Somewhat like a Broadway show, where the thing is note for note the same every night. This tour, the parts were very specific. Not this tour, but this gig. The parts were very specific. And if I played a pinky note by accident or something, or he heard some funny thing in the chord that wasn't supposed to be there, he would hear it and know it. Yeah. And I'd get the look.
And he'd look at Daryl and be like, "Why did you make me hire this guy?"
Daryl. Well, that was the first year. There's a lot of funny stories about things that went wrong technically in the first year where Daryl got glared at like it was his fault. And I felt so bad for him because he was on probation for me for the whole first tour. But a gig like that very often is particularly at that era, the parts and the music that the musicians play is very scripted, sort of. Yeah. It's not just the Rolling Stones jamming every night. You got to do it the same way, as reliably the same way as possible every night, or very close to the same way, so that the audience perceives the recorded arrangement is being performed live. Sure. And so you got to play all the voicings the same. And it was really playing with Phil that I learned how important it is to play the voicings exactly as they were first played. It makes a difference.
Well, it's a huge band and it's all orchestrated too, right? These are not afterthought parts. These are very specifically written things that complement the groove and the melody and everything.
Everybody.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I respect that. No doubt about it.
It's the way that kind of band operates. And it's not just Phil. It would be almost any band where the songs are supposed to conform to the way they were first recorded and released. The audience doesn't want to hear creative interpretations of Sussudio. Sure.
Yeah.
Except for when we did the jazz band, that was specifically
that was the point. Yeah. Was Chester on a click for any of this touring later in days?
Chester was never
on a click. Wow.
Ricky Lawson was on a click.
Okay.
Chester he had a metronome there just to make sure he had the starting
like a light or something.
Yeah, the little handheld thing that was like this.
Yeah. It was probably an iPhone app back in 1987, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's a little before iPhone.
Oh man.
He would just look at the thing and say, "All right, this is 128 beats per minute." And then he would count it off, and that was it. He didn't use a click. So the time was alive. Yeah. It kind of breathed with the track. Sure. Ricky played to a click, so the time was dead center.
Now, was that Ricky's choice or was that Phil's directive?
That was Ricky's choice.
Yeah.
I have two minds about it. I really appreciated the stability of playing that stuff with Ricky when it was locked into a click, but it also got to be just the slightest bit predictable for me. It made it easier to kind of tune out. Yeah. Because the time was never going to go anywhere, so I could zone out and still play. At least with Chester, I had to pay attention. and because things could just lift a little here or there.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're playing In the Air Tonight, and next thing you know, you got an F sharp in there, and you're like, oh shit, Phil's looking at Daryl again.
Well, I had too many technical glitches on In the Air Tonight to even begin to talk about here. But if there's any song in the pop music repertoire where you don't want things to go wrong technically, that's it.
Right. Because
there's almost nothing going on musically except triads.
You're right. Yeah.
And anything other than a triad sounds completely radically wrong, and it hurts almost.
You can feel it in the air that night.
On and on. Now, I'm just going to put it out there right now that I am outlining and organizing material for a book.
Oh, cool.
Stories like
my gosh, that's amazing. I was just going to ask you what you've got on the horizon, but that's awesome. What's the timeline on that?
I'm trying to get some time to actually write this thing because I've been kind of writing it in my head for the last two years, really. And it'll be the story of someone who got to LA with no self-confidence and somehow made it.
Well, I can't wait to read it, man.
And there are some very funny, now they're funny. They were horrific at the time, but now they're funny stories of things that go wrong technically on stage.
Yeah.
And Phil, for the most part, was very sympathetic because he knew I was always trying to fix the problems, even if I couldn't fix them all at once. He knew that I was trying, and he gave me a little leeway as long as I kept trying. But yeah, I mean, when you have a big rig like that, and my rig was pretty complicated before computers took over. Everything was kind of all hardwired together, and there was mixers, and it was a mess.
Yeah.
So there was many opportunities for failure in that setup.
Yeah.
So I had redundancy built in where if some module went down or something, there was always something else to take its place. Particularly for the basic instruments like piano and organ and strings and stuff. Still, things go wrong. MIDI, as Donald Fagen says memorably, MIDI is shit. And he's quite right. MIDI is shit. It's a 50-year-old protocol that we're still using.
Yeah.
It's a parallel interface, not a serial interface. No, wait, it's a serial interface, not a parallel interface. So it's slow.
Yeah.
It's actually really slow compared to what's available now. And yet we still use it because manufacturers won't change.
Would you have latency issues then if you're running MIDI live, or were you not doing that?
I would have latency issues. The patch was complicated, but in those days, the maximum sampler memory was 32 megabytes. So there was like no. Now samplers are gigabyte sized memories.
Yeah.
I didn't have that much of a problem with latency, just every once in a while here and there. And some different instruments had better response than others. Korgs were always very quick. Some of the Rolands, I had a little latency now and then in some of the instruments. But by the time we got really going in the 80s or the 90s, they had improved the chip technology, so it was faster response, and became less and less of an issue. But the last tour I used MainStage, which is an Apple program or a Macintosh program that you use as sort of a all-in-one host for plug-in instruments and also for mixing and effects, and you can put vocals through it and backing tracks and all that stuff. And that opened up a new problem because now you had to back up this system within another entire system. So I had two going.
Wow.
With a single switch that would flip between one or the other if one went down. I could always have one. But I had two identical systems running in tandem. That doubles your costs.
For sure.
Immediately in every aspect of it. But you got to have that because things will go down on stage. It just happens.
Yeah.
And so I always had that. And I only had to use it once in 3 years where one of the computers went down and I just flicked the switch and the other one was there with the same sounds. And it was like,
well, that's what it was there for.
That's what you pay all that money for. It's like insurance.
Yeah. It's really interesting thinking back on the career that you've had, say, playing, I guess, starting professionally in the 80s, 70s, 80s?
I think I mean, I started making money as a musician in 1974, but I mean, I really could credit the real start of it in 1978 when I got to LA.
But over the course of your career, you have seen just an unbelievable, overwhelming revolution in not only the industry workings, but the technological elements, which is, you know, I see some of the generations that are younger than me that sort of get into it now on their laptop, and, you know, they're on their DAW, or we have, you know, X32, all digital mixing, and everything is a recreation of the analog world, even visually. But for some of these people, they've never even turned a dial on a frickin' board. It's like, it's all this, you know, it's like an email icon app where they've never actually, you know, some 20-year-old kids never actually go to the mailbox. I mean, obviously we still have mailboxes, but the point is that it's just changed so much. And you really kind of have been able to experience, I would say, probably the sweet spot of like,
well, I got into LA and got into the inner rungs of the business just as the MIDI revolution was starting. I seem to recall in 1982 was the year when MIDI really emerged, and digital keyboards really emerged that year. And so, yeah, I was always chasing whatever the new technology was at great expense, I might add, because some of that stuff was really pricey in those days. What you would spend a lot of money on now, you can hold in a portion of your phone in your pocket.
Unreal.
And it's probably better than it was then. I never got so far as to investing in things like Synclavier, which was a super high-end digital system in the 80s that could cost up to $100,000 to have the full-blown system. And some guys in LA invested in that, and they became specialists with that synth. That synth is all over Michael Jackson's Thriller, for example. But us guys who were just kind of scrapping around, make a living and working with different people, we would get a profit maybe, and then maybe as they came out, we'd pick one up. When the D50 came out in 1987, I had it sent to the studio in Lake Geneva where I was doing Daryl's record.
Cool. Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Used it on that for the first time. And then there were things like the Korg Wave Station, which is another digital synth. These are all hot developments that came along. And then came the module versions of things, and it was like cooler to have the module and triggering it from another keyboard rather than having the synth itself. You can have all these modules and stuff in a rack, and then started the rack wars in LA, who had the biggest racks. And that is not a metaphor.
Well, maybe it is too,
you know. Racks. Well, somewhat psychologically.
It could be
perhaps,
both.
But you know, who has the most stuff? So you show up with 2 or 3 of these tall racks full of blinking synthesizers, and I don't know whether that paid off or not. But now guys come in with a laptop and one keyboard, that's it.
Yeah, that is wild. And access to whatever sounds they want ever.
Yeah, they got more variety and more creativity available now than they ever did before.
And even in the studio, I mean, they're just, it's overwhelming sometimes to have the opportunity to use all these plugins, but it's like decision fatigue. Sometimes it's like going to a restaurant where there's too many things on the menu, and how do you ever decide and commit to anything? Right? You keep the options all the way open until mix, and how do you even mix a song?
Well, that may be one of the reasons why the music from the 70s and 80s still to this day sounds more creative than what's going on now, because they didn't have the options and they had to really think through their choices and also write better songs.
I tend to agree with you, although there's a lot of amazing stuff out there today too. But I tend to agree with you, and I would also say musicians needed to actually know how to play things. They needed to know how to perform things. Yes, of course there were edits, but now you can edit, you can MIDI, you can do anything. And yeah, I don't mean to actually sound pessimistic about it or like a dinosaur, because it's amazing and it's here, but it's not all good. It definitely changes the incentives, like maybe where the next generation is spending their time. It's like skills on a laptop or skills on a piano. And anyway, Brad, I know you're up against a limit here, and you've been amazing.
Hey, listen, if you want to, we could pick this up on Friday and carry on. It's okay with me.
If you're open to that, I would love to.
I'm
Oh,
enjoying
man.
the dialogue. So if you want to do that, we can.
That would be amazing. Let's get it.
I think you obviously have more stuff to talk about.
So much we haven't gotten to. That's a
okay.
very
Let's
generous
do that.
offer.
Let's. If you want to go for 12 o'clock on Friday. 12 o'clock for me. I guess that's 10 o'clock for you.
Let me get back to you on the exact schedule for Friday. I've got a few things and I don't know exactly when they're happening, but yes, I'll accommodate around your schedule. And let's hit it again on Friday.
After tomorrow, I got plenty of time.
Okay.
So,
well, we'll do that much more.
I think this is going really well. We should do some
totally,
more.
Brad. Thanks so much.
I'll try to wear the same shirt too.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, folks.
Yeah. We will be right back. Pause this for about 48 hours or so. Okay. Have a great session, man. We'll see you in a few days.
It's a pleasure, man. So I'll talk to you again.
Okay.
Soon.
See ya.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. I'm back with Brad Cole for round two. 48 hours later.
Not 48 hours better, just 48 hours later.
We're both 48 hours older now, aren't we?
Yeah. And at my age, that's significant.
So, well, Brad, thanks so much for offering to do this again. Yeah, we had such a great conversation. I'm excited to get back into it. I don't remember exactly where we left off. I know that there were so many different directions we could go in the conversation. I was actually, just before we logged on here, I was watching a performance of In the Air Tonight. I believe it was during so I'm not sure if this was the person who uploaded the video who named it this, but the Finally First Well tour, was there
first final farewell? Yeah,
final farewell tour.
That was 2004.
Okay,
and there was never a second final farewell officially, but the actual final farewell was the last tours we did in 2017 through 2019. That definitely was the farewell.
That was it, yeah.
But this one was his tongue-in-cheek way of saying, "I'm leaving, but not yet."
Right. Yeah.
You know how everybody does these farewell tours that last 3 or 4 years, like Elton John.
No kidding.
And I always say, how can we miss you if you won't leave? You know?
That is very true. Well, I mean, it used to be sort of a brilliant marketing idea years ago, but obviously Phil's way of sort of playing into the humor of that, I think people started to catch on after a while.
Sort of Monty Python-esque English humor, which I've always loved.
That's great.
It's just so cheesy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was 2004.
Yeah. Well, I actually got to see Genesis in 2021. I actually got to go with our mutual friend Kostia. And that was just an amazing experience. I'd never seen, obviously having the opportunity to perform with Daryl a handful of times over the years in his band, and also having him join me on stage, but I'd never actually seen any of the stuff he did with Phil Collins or Genesis. And
oh, really?
Still never got to see you guys play together with Phil Collins, which I'm disappointed about, because I think you're certainly right. I think that those days are over, aren't they?
Yeah, they are definitely over. They're a very fond memory now. I don't think we're going to be even doing any one-offs. I mean, I never say never.
Yeah, you never know.
It's foolish to do that, but it's unlikely. Let's just go that far.
Sure.
But it could happen. Anything could happen.
Sure.
I've been wrong so many times when I get asked to make my predictions. I tell people to bank on what I don't say. Put the money there.
Good.
I've been wrong too often. But
So
I
during
see it in my future, but it could be.
Yeah. During this show, or during this performance of In the Air Tonight, which of course everybody on planet Earth has certainly heard that song.
Now. Yeah.
I was I've seen this video before, but I actually had a few questions that I actually meaning to ask you years ago about that particular performance. It starts off with quite an extended intro where there's, footage of Phil getting his headset on and going through all of his pre-song ritual, whatever it was backstage. And you're playing this pretty extended intro, which is not just the D minor C chord. I'm wondering, was that improvised, or was that something you?
No, that wasn't improvised. That was written, and it was written differently with each tour. So, in other words, this sort of started in 1990 with a more basic intro.
Yeah.
With a few little things added, but then each subsequent tour, I was allowed to kind of develop this a little bit. And so by 2004, which would have been tour number 4 for me, it was this whole thing, and there was lighting designed to it, and it was the whole ambient moment. They gave him a minute to catch his breath because we just finished a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Get set up at the drums, or at least get set up to sing with a headset and be able to walk to the drums and get just ready to go. So there was this whole beginning that had all these vocoder stuff going and lots of zhuzhy synth sounds that just kind of gave it a very whooshy ambient sound.
Oh, ethereal and awesome. It was great.
Sweeping the arena, and it was one of those moments. And then somehow in those days, I was not running the drum loops. They were being run by one of the monitor guys.
Okay.
So I would cue the drum loop, but my little thing at the beginning was timed to the tempo of the song.
Right.
And it was always problematic whether that drum loop would start exactly where I wanted it to.
Sure.
Until the last tour when I started running the drum loops.
Okay.
And I could do that.
Okay.
So I had it all set up on a Apple MacBook. All of the drum loops in the song, in the show, were set up on different keys on the MacBook. I just had to punch it, and it was an instantaneous start. And I was able to get it in time with all of my time delays and all that stuff that was in my sound collage. And but that year I would just throw a cue, and it would try to learn to throw it about 30-40 milliseconds early, so that the thing might start on time. And it did about half the time.
So what kind of cue? Are you actually just saying a visual cue with your hand, or are you actually firing something? Yeah. There we go. Right.
And
cool.
It wasn't that kind of cue. It was
right. It's like, come on, man, where are you? You're late.
But, there's always a bit of a delay. And those guys are always, when they put their finger near the thing, and it's like they're afraid they're going to miss it. And so they're scared. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes they do miss it. Yeah, it actually happened on one night on the last tour when I was having some miscues for some reason or other. So I gave it to my keyboard tech, Jeff Callingham, to start the loops, and it terrified him. He was shaking, and I looked back there, and he's like, So I took it back after that one night. That's
hilarious.
And I said, Jeff, you don't need this.
You don't need this kind of stress in your life. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I reviewing that video, man, I really wanted to ask you about that because it's such a cool intro. And I'm sure if people had maybe been to another show on the tour, or maybe, I'm sure a lot of the audience kind of knew what might be coming, but I'm sure some of them were kind of wondering, okay, here's this ominous intro. What's coming?
They didn't really know until the drum loop came in.
Right. So. Yeah, for sure. And then as you can see
gave it away, and then you get applause after that. They'd figure out what it was.
Totally.
Go, oh yeah, that's okay. I get where that where that goes. All right.
Yep. Yeah.
Now the last tour, I went too far. I jumped the shark on this thing, and I was building this intro, and I had found, the line in the song, "I can feel it coming in the air." So I found a line from the movie 2001 Space Odyssey where Hal, the computer, is getting disconnected, and he goes, "I can feel it." So I sampled that and I put it in this loop, and it was supposed to be like, "I can feel it." And then, then the drum loop started.
Right.
And I was thinking the people were not picking this up. They weren't getting it. So I decided to enhance it.
Okay.
By saying myself, "I can feel it." And I did it like 8 or 9 times and spread it all across the stereo field like this. So when he goes, "I can feel it." It sounds like Gigantor is saying it.
Yeah.
And when we ran that in rehearsal, he goes, "I can feel it." Phil goes, "Really?"
Like he shot the idea down. He was like, "That's too much."
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Subtle he was not.
Yeah.
But direct and to the point he was.
Right. Hey, well, there you go. There's a huge advantage to that communication style. So you're actually the one singing into the vocoder though, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you about
And
that.
it's just making noises that trigger the synth sound. So actually one time the keyboard tech somehow got a feed off of this microphone and recorded the actual vocal audio I was doing. And it really sounds like I'm having a fit. It's sort of like that.
That's amazing.
And it sounds really cool when you play it through a synth, but it sounds completely nuts as a vocal.
So when you're actually singing into a vocoder, I've messed around with it a little bit, but you're playing an instrument that's giving pitch, right? So it's kind of strange, especially for somebody like you who has a background as an actual singer. It's got to be weird to I don't actually need to sing a pitch.
It actually helps to be a singer because you can phrase properly. Like, for example, Herbie Hancock did this in the 70s, and he had some beautiful sounds going with his vocoder. But he sang, the phrasing was great. So his singing was good to begin with, but the vocoder imparted this quality.
Yeah.
And the vocoder can impart all kinds of different qualities to the synth, depending on the synth sound and depending on how you tweak up the vocoder parameters.
Sure.
Sometimes it sounds very robotic. So it's a pitch that sounds like this, and it just sounds like a robot. Or it can be just sort of more like ambient, with all those mouth shapes. It's kind of a little bit like a talking guitar effect, if you ever saw that.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is? It's when the guitar player would put a tube in his mouth, and that somehow captured the shape of his voice box and put that onto the guitar sound. It was an early sort of vocoder in the analog realm.
I've heard about it. I've never seen it used.
You hear those vocoders that sound like they're throwing up. Blah, blah. That's what that is. That's talking box.
All right.
There. That's my little useless factoid for today.
No, that's a gem right there. I know you mentioned on Wednesday that there were a number of In the Air Tonight horror stories. I'm not sure if that was your language or mine, but
over the years.
Would you care to share any of those?
I'll share one.
Sure.
I'll share one from the last tour.
So this is 2016, 2017?
16 through 19. By this time, I was now completely on computers. I had almost no hardware synths at all. Everything was all done in the computer. But I had two computer systems. So in order to get the MIDI off of the keyboards that I was playing, I had to split that to two destinations. So I had MIDI splitters, these little boxes, on all the keyboards. So everything I played went to two different MIDI interfaces and two different computers and all that. Well, there was a time when, and I could never fix this problem, that the keyboard would lock up. In other words, it would sustain everything. It wouldn't release. So I'd play the D minor chord and then go to the C major over D chord, but the D minor chord would not release. So you get this mush.
Yeah.
And the only way to stop it was to hit the panic button, which would cut everything off, including the low pedal note I was holding with my foot. So the sound would stop entirely.
Oh my gosh.
This went on for a few nights. And at the time I had a lot of friends I was getting advice from about this particular piece of software on the Macintosh called Mainstage.
Yep.
Which a lot of players now use to do all kinds of live stuff with.
Any sound imaginable, right?
It's basically a host for any plug-in instrument.
Sure.
Virtual instrument you want to use. Plus it has its own sounds. Plus you can put a microphone through there. Plus you could play a backing track through there. So it's a really great tool for live performance. But I could not figure out why this was happening. And every night for about 2 weeks, I would play this song like this. And play it, say, please, Lord, please, please, please. Play the next chord. Some nights it went, some nights it didn't. And I would get that look.
Oh, my God.
And I was writing on Facebook to everybody I knew, please, anybody have any ideas what's going on? And I was getting advice from all over the world, from different musicians and different computer guys. And I talked to Apple specialists. And I thought this was a main stage problem. And really what it turned out finally to be was this MIDI splitter.
Okay.
Wasn't working right. It wasn't passing through all the messages, one of which is release.
Okay.
Of the chord that you play. So when
Yeah.
you push the keys down, when you let go of them, there's a MIDI message that goes out that tells the instrument to stop playing. It's a note off message.
Sure.
It wasn't getting the note off messages. So
oh man.
It was finally solved by getting a MIDI interface that had actually two distinct outputs for two different computers.
Okay.
So I could get rid of all the splitters, put it straight into this, and it was fine right after for the rest of the tour. It never happened again.
Yeah.
But when it was happening, it was a long and difficult night.
Oh my goodness. So are we talking this would happen over
It happened
and over
more than
during the
once.
song?
It happened
But even during one performance, you'd kill it, you'd start over as
it happened many times.
Continue. Oh my goodness.
I'd have to keep bailing out on it and using the kill button and try to play as soon as I can after the kill button.
Yeah.
So it didn't sound like there was too much of a gap there.
Oh my gosh.
But
man.
That's what live is. It's the unexpected, no matter how prepared you think you are.
Yeah.
There's always the unexpected. And for example, here's another one. Not having to do with this song, but having to do with Studio and the encore that came after it. So Studio had these confetti cannons going off with confetti shooting all over the place, including all over the stage, including all over the keyboards.
Sure.
So when we exited the stage to wait to come back on for the encore, which was Take Me Home, my guy Jeff would come out with a brush and brush off all this confetti off the keyboards. Well, one night he brushed it off, but he didn't know he did this, but he hit the transpose button on the main keyboard.
I do that all the time, Brad. Everyone in my band hates me.
And knocked it down a half a step or up a half a step or something. It must have been down a half step. And so we came out to start Take Me Home. And that's just 4 chords, very pure, and it's in the key of E flat. But when I played the chord, it was in the key of D, and that sounds as alien to your ear as like music from another planet. So I didn't know what was going on. I then started playing the song in E on the keyboard, so it would come out as the right key of E flat.
Right.
But the upper keyboards were still in the original key of E flat. So I ended up playing that song in 2 keys simultaneously that night.
Oh my gosh, that takes, even with 4 chords, that takes a fair amount of brain power.
Well, I looked at it as, let's see if I'm hip enough and cool enough to do this. We'll see.
That is something else.
But that's what you got to do when the shit goes down like that, and you don't know why. You don't have time to diagnose it. You have to just respond and
figure
react.
It out. Try not to look too panicked.
Figure it out later, and then what we ended up doing was building this little house over top of the transpose button, so that no matter what he did there, he would never touch it again.
Not possible. Yeah. Yeah.
These things. But I never thought something like that could happen. I just You can think of all the possibilities you want. There'll always be 1 or 2 that you miss, that you never even consider.
My duo partner, our duo is an acoustic guitar and basically piano. Obviously, I'm playing an electronic keyboard, but we do a ton of like private event stuff, just a lot of covers, a lot of 3-4 hour gigs. And during those shows, he actually uses a guitar that's tuned in E flat. So he's usually capoing fret 1. But sometimes when we're doing 3-4 hour gigs, we're like, you know what, let's just do Sunday morning down a half step or whatever it is, because, it's a 4-hour gig and trying to save voice and all of these things. But occasionally somebody, and it's usually me, either he forgets to put the capo on or whatever it is. And we start, and, you enter and you're just in you got a vibe going, and maybe he's starting the groove or something. And then I come in with this very confident chord that's, Anyway, just
hey, I wanted to ask you, what does that plaque on your piano say? There's like a little plaque there.
Dedicated in loving memory, Rory Susan Gaynor Burke. Could you hear any of that?
A little.
Probably not.
Memory of who?
I want to get it right. It's Rory, Susan, and Gaynor Burke. Now, this piano that I'm very fortunate to own at this point has kind of a cool story to it. I had put the word out on Facebook because one of my friends, who's a photographer here in town, had this concept for a shoot, but it involved a grand piano. And so they called me and said, hey, I'd love to do this shoot, but we need a grand piano. Do you have a grand piano, or can you get a hold of a grand piano we can borrow for this shoot? And so I put the word out on Facebook, and a dear friend of mine actually wrote and said, yeah, we have this grand piano. It's actually, we own it, but it's been sitting in the lobby of this assisted living care center. And it needs some work, but you're more than welcome to borrow it for your shoot if you can obviously pay to get it moved to the studio location. And after the shoot was over, they're like, and as a matter of fact, if you just want to keep the piano, you can keep the piano. And it's really a gorgeous Baldwin piano. I think it's 101 years old, and it required some work. They gave me this piano. So, man, I feel incredibly fortunate. Now, what you can't quite see, or maybe you can, but this piano, which is, it's a 6-foot piano. Yeah. It fits in this room absolutely barely. Where I am here with my computer setup is right against this wall, and getting it in through the only door you can see right over there. When the piano movers showed up, they're looking at me going like, there's no way we're going to get it in there. And I said, well, I hope we can, because there is no plan B. There is nowhere else in this house that's going to go. Anyway, we got it in. We got it in, no problem. So it's never coming out.
Wow. So how much work did you have to do on it?
Well, I mean, it's this room isn't as well temperature controlled as obviously one would want ideally for an acoustic piano. So it needs to be tuned a bunch, but we just had to do some work on the hammers and felts, and sustain pedal had to be replaced. I mean, we're not talking thousands. Well, I mean, over $1,000, but not a ton of money, especially for an instrument that somebody gave you. Yeah. So, and I've got some Earthworks mics up there, and I mean, it's just mic'd up. So anytime I feel the inspiration, it's
does the touch feel nice? And is it classical touch, or is it like a Yamaha jazz touch?
It's more probably in the classical touch realm.
Really, what I think Baldwins are most noted for.
It's definitely heavier action. I love it, man. It's a fantastic piano.
Baldwins are wonderful. I wish I had one, but good for
well,
you. That's a good story. I mean, it's good to have instruments that have some story behind them. It's fun.
For sure. Yeah, and I don't know kind of what your thoughts are on this, but look, I love obviously the convenience of the keyboards, and you can explore sounds and MIDI and all of these advantages, but at the same time, there's nothing like the inspiration of an acoustic grand piano. You sit down to that instrument, it's like, whoo, this is what it's all about.
I have felt for a long time that no matter how good the virtual instruments are now, including pianos, and some of them are very good. Yeah. Exceptionally good. They're all great until you play a really good real piano. And then you find out immediately that you've only been playing a sort of a shadow image of a real piano.
Indeed.
Or any instrument, really. Yeah. And I think some of these instruments are not sampleable. In other words, they can never really work in the sampling realm. Like guitar, I think, is impossible to really sample to the point.
Why do you think that is? Somebody. I agree, but why do you think that is?
The guitar is too random. Every time you pluck it, it's a different set of overtones than the previous time you plucked it, even if it's the very same note. Yeah. And the ear is too sensitive, vastly more sensitive than the eye to variations. That's why samples, even good samples, you can hear, or at least I can hear, when there is repetition in the samples. I can hear the sameness of it. Right. Even the good ones. Yeah. And, in 90% of pop music, it's all buried under drums and stuff and effects and everything. So it doesn't matter. But if you're playing a solo piano, doing it on a sampled instrument is just a pale imitation of doing it on a real instrument.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And I think even more so, playing a piano, part of it to me is the inspiration that comes from sitting at the grand piano in the studio, whereas you're actually feeling the reverberation when you strike the keys.
I think things have to vibrate because that's the only way that they show you that they're alive. And that's why I took up the bass in the last few years,
Okay.
because I wanted to play an instrument that vibrated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've been interested in learning bass, and I've been studying bass now well, actually, I really started it in 2006, but I've gotten serious since COVID started.
Okay.
And
Cool. So move over Leland Sklar.
no, he doesn't have to move anywhere. But I just enjoy the feeling of that piece of wood up against your belly,
Yeah.
and you hit a note and you feel it. It's just all right through, and that's very satisfying. Playing a synthesizer is like playing a bunch of light switches. It's just a big 88 key light switch that goes on and off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it is magic, though. It is magic, though.
There is magic to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's nothing that can replace the sound of acoustic music being made acoustically in real time, in real space.
Yeah.
Where the air is moving. I mean, I have a piano back here that I practice on, right there. And that's a Yamaha stage piano.
I don't actually see the... Oh, yeah. Right there. Yep. Right behind you. Yep.
And it's got a really decent live sort of I guess it's a Yamaha C3 or whatever their main flagship acoustic piano is.
CP33, I think. Yeah.
Pretty good, but it's not the same thing as a really good real piano.
Yeah.
Now it is better than a lousy piano.
Absolutely. And it stays
out
in
of tune and out of voice. Those, it is better than that, but it's coming out of a loudspeaker. And if you're in a performance venue, you have no idea whether it is traveling through the air the same way that the real piano does when it travels through the air.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I've been working with samples since the 80s, and I'm frankly, I'm just kind of burnt out on the whole thing. I just want to do acoustic music.
Interesting. That's interesting. What are you listening to these days?
I should add that I can't, because I get hired all the time to do tracks.
Okay.
And I got to do them with strings, and I got to do them with horns sometimes, and I got to do them with bass, and sometimes even guitars that have to be sampled, because they don't have a budget to hire everybody.
Understand.
So I have to be good at doing the best I can with the sampled instruments. So I really can't get away from them entirely.
Right.
But that's one reason why I wanted to learn bass. I wanted something I put on these tracks that was real.
Yeah.
Even if the performance stinks, at least the sound is real.
Yeah. That's it.
I think most bass samples don't sing to my ear. They don't sing. They're kind of there. They're compressed.
Right.
They're like a flat image of a 3D object.
Sure.
But anyway, I'm sorry. I just was.
Oh no, that's good stuff. There are you. So this is at so Coal Mine is your studio. Is that right?
Coal Mine is the studio.
Or your production company.
It's a brand. I hate that word, but it's everything.
Right.
And it's also unofficial. I have never incorporated officially. Okay. So it's just a catch-all.
Yeah. And do you think of yourself more as a producer or an engineer or a session player, or is it just a sort of combination?
These days, it's whatever they want to hire me to do. That's what I am. And
right.
I could be doing anything from producing to just engineering to arranging to mixing to mastering to doing music prep and finale, doing printed music preparation.
Sure.
I've done like 5 piano songbooks for people in LA.
Okay.
Based on their MIDI files of their piano performances, and I turn those into notation.
Oh, that's cool.
And during COVID, when there was absolutely nothing going on, I taught myself finale over the course of about a year to really become an expert at it. And so I can do that. I can do publishable printed music.
So what you're doing is you're getting what the MIDI is transcribing, and then you're basically adjusting it, checking it, catching the errors.
You have to really convert it before you put it in notation, because MIDI is really a representation of what music sounds like rather than what it looks like.
Sure.
So there's things you have to do to it that the artists don't want to do, or don't know how to do, or they don't understand the difference. But MIDI, you can't just spill in MIDI into a notation software and expect it to come up looking done, finished.
Right.
Particularly piano music with 2 staves.
Right. Right. Sort of on that topic, I wanted to ask you if you have any specific thoughts on AI and how it is already impacting the music industry and maybe your interaction with music and maybe I suppose every generation has always probably been tempted to look at the tools and techniques of the current generation as almost like cheating, you know, whether it's auto-tune or everything goes digital from tape and everything gets easier. But do you see it that way, or are we going to find ways to...
Well, you used exactly the right term. It's a tool.
Okay.
And like any tool, you can kill with it or you can save lives with it.
Sure.
It's like any other piece of machinery that you would pick up and use. There's many uses for it. I don't think AI will ever write a great song, but AI could write a hit. But the thing that makes a great song great is the humanity that's in it. And again, it becomes a matter of how we define great. And the way we are as a culture, we just keep defining downward. And there will come a time when a song will come out that has no human input whatsoever, and it will be a hit.
Do you think it's already happened?
I think it's happened in some aspects of songs. I don't think they'll ever be able to create a vocal that really moves people the way that a real singer would.
Right.
I could see the track, since most tracks now are all done in chunks, like with loops and little bits and pieces that they cut and paste all across the song. There's very little, the word I use is linearity. There's very little front to backness of songs.
Right.
They're built vertically and they're built in little blocks. It's like Lego. It's like a Lego construction of a song. There's little blocks that you build up.
Sure.
That's halfway to AI already. So if AI is using that kind of material as a learning basis, it's only going to produce more of the same.
Sure.
But so far, AI has not been able to imitate, for example, great songwriters of any generation or great classical composers of any generation.
Right.
Because its learning base is so narrow so far. You know, no AI program is going to write a Beethoven sonata that would be as good as Beethoven. It might sound somewhat like Beethoven.
Sure.
But it'll feel like Beethoven with a leg missing or with some organ missing or some part of it missing. It'll just feel just not quite there. And depending on how sophisticated your ear is, you'll either know that or you won't. So, for example, if you're writing stuff for TV, where it's just like wallpaper in the background, AI is perfect for that.
Yeah.
And I think that time will come when a lot of TV soundtracks in particular, and maybe even some movie soundtracks will be all or mostly AI generated.
Right.
I use AI for specific tasks. One of the best things that AI does now is take a mixed track and take elements out of the track.
And is it doing that just by identifying certain frequency ranges?
I think it is that, but I think it's more than that. I think it learns what frequencies the vocals in, and also what words and sounds and syllables and other aspects of the sound apply. And I just did one for a friend. She wants to take a song by Destiny's Child, which is Beyonce's band from the 2000s, and change the lyrics of some of it, but she wants to keep most of the rest of the vocal.
Right.
So I stripped the vocal out, and those records have lots of stacked up vocals, not just a lead, but there's tons of harmonies and backgrounds and little pieces that come and go. And it got almost all of it, not 100% all of it, but it got most of it.
Right.
So there's enough of it taken out so that I can edit that vocal track and put the holes in it for my friend to put in her changed lyrics.
Yeah.
And then just bring the whole thing back in and smooth it out. So a thing like that would have been impossible 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You'd have to, if you try to do it with EQ, your mix would have a big hole in it.
Right.
And you'd probably have to replace some instruments to fill that hole.
Right.
Now, depending on how isolated the vocal is, I've done tracks where when the vocal is really centered and really in the same level and the same intensity throughout the song, it comes right out. And the track is, there's almost no artifacts left behind.
Wow.
Like a song like a James Taylor song or a Billy Joel song where the lead is specific, and specifically placed and specifically mixed. They'll come right out very easily.
Wow.
And I use that to practice bass. As a matter of fact, I take classic pop songs and pull the bass out, leaving everything else, and I just play along to that.
That's a fantastic use for it. Yeah.
So there it's being used as a tool. It's not a creative tool, but it is it's a teaching aid.
Yeah. So Apple Music has a function I'm wondering if it's actually utilizing that same technology, where if you go on Apple Music on your iPhone, there's an icon of a microphone. And if you select the microphone, you can turn down the lead vocal. Yeah. I'm not sure. Is it probably that, huh?
It's the same thing.
And some songs it's better than others. Some songs it's virtually undetectable.
Right.
And I discovered this because one of these corporate events I was doing, and I had to learn to lead sing, 25 songs. And what it does is it's like a teleprompter. It shows you the lyrics, so you can just have
great.
It's
perfect for that.
Yeah, it's great. That's sort of like your bass playing practice thing.
Well, that's exactly the best usage of it is to learn material. And, you can pull any instrument out, and depending on how forward it is in the mix and how frequency specific it is, it'll come out. So you could take the guitar out of some things. You could take the keyboards out of some things. I've done jazz tracks where I take the piano out. And that's really kind of iffy because piano is such a broad harmonic spectrum. It's really hard and
at the same time too, right? I mean, you're at the same exact moment, you might have a fifth down here in your left hand and a triad or something, and the range is so that's simultaneous. But
like with all other aspects of what piano is, it's the least successful in pulling it out of the track. But in some instances, it does work really well. And it's a great learning tool. I have plenty of tunes set up over here on my iPad with piano pulled out to practice, especially jazz stuff. Mm-hmm. I think I wish I had that when I was in college.
Sure.
God, it would have made a difference being able to access all the material. I think people don't even realize how fortunate they are to be living in a time when the entire history of music is available in their pocket. And it's
the entire history of anything, in fact. I mean, the fact that you can actually you can see anything that's ever been recorded.
It's like having the history of Western civilization in your pocket and with the battery running low at the same time. But for music, as a music student, I can listen to 25 different interpretations of a Beethoven symphony instantly.
It's wild.
In my case, I use the streaming service called Tidal, Tidal, and it's the same thing as Spotify, except that it's a higher end or a higher quality streaming. It's a 96K streaming. So it really sounds great.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they have a lot of master quality tracks on there that sound as good as they would sound in the studio. They're 24-bit, 96K, and very not compressed. They don't. Spotify and all those other ones have a compression algorithm.
Right.
The full dynamic range of tracks.
Well, I've had a number of conversations over the last couple of years with mostly musicians, but also just people who appreciate music who might not study it or perform it professionally, about how just in general, society-wide, listening to music is mostly relegated to a supplementary activity. It's not actually a focus activity anymore. And just what you were saying sort of brought that front and center in my mind here, which is kind of sad. It's like, I know my parents talk about it all the time. And, I even used to have these experiences 15, 20 years ago where I would buy a CD that I was really excited about, and you didn't have the availability to go get whatever you wanted. So there was some anticipation of like, I know that this CD by Ben Folds is coming out on Friday, and I've saved up my money for it. I'm so excited, and I'm going to go listen. And it's, 4416 at least. Not that we knew what that meant back then, but I would put it on in the best headphones or system I could find, and I would actually spend 50 minutes like fully inside this piece of music.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, your AirPods at the gym, or you're taking a walker in the car or whatever. And It is what it is, but it's
because it's now so portable. You can do it anywhere at any time while you're doing anything else, which especially geezers like me who grew up in the last 20 years of the analog era, you were limited to your record player.
right.
And if I was learning a piece of music, I had to learn it off the record or put it on a cassette tape and just roll that cassette tape back and forth.
Yeah.
But now you have random access memory. You can jump around in this song. You can slow it down. You can change the pitch of it to learn it if you want to learn it in a different key. I'll give you a great example. We were playing in 1976. I was in a show band, and we were playing a cover version of an Earth, Wind and Fire song called Getaway.
Mm-hmm.
And it had, in the middle of it had this synth break. And it was obviously played by an old-fashioned analog sequencer, which a human being couldn't play it because it was too fast. It was going butt up like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had to know what those notes were. So in order to learn them, I had to play the record at 33, its regular speed, record it on reel-to-reel tape at 7.5 inches per second.
Oh my goodness.
Slow that down to 3 3/4 per second, and then write it out as I heard it and then transpose it back to the right key. Because if you took a 33 record, the super slow speed in those days was 16 3/8, or I forget. It was something that a lot of kids' records and spoken records were done at this really slow speed.
Mm-hmm.
But at that speed, you couldn't hear the pitch of things. And you just couldn't tell what was going on.
Well, yeah.
So I had to put it on tape, slow it down that much. And
oh my goodness. That's a lot.
Backwards.
That's a lot of effort. Yeah, but it's also
all
really
afternoon to write this. It was a 2-bar thing. It took hours.
Yeah.
Now I could do that in 15 minutes.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because having gone through that experience, it cultivated certain skills for you as well as an awareness of the mechanism. Whereas even though now you might have technology where you can do that in a way that's much more efficient, you actually kind of have an idea of where it comes from. You know, I see a lot of kids these days who all they ever have learned on is the digital audio workstation, right? Which is a visual recreation of an actual analog board. But they don't even, I mean, of course, there's still mixer boards and people will see them at live venues or Guitar Center or whatever. But for the most part, many of these students of music now and people that are getting to the performing arts or recording industry, it's all that, it's all digital without the background knowledge of like, where did this come from?
Well, with analog, you had to kind of know, because analog was a linear medium, even though you were still capable of punching in and out on a tape.
What do you mean exactly? Can you explain?
Linear medium means, well, for one thing, the tape runs through the tape machine.
Left to right, right?
Left to right, and it runs the length of the piece that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on a computer, you can jump around any place at any time. You can even get the thing to skip sections when it plays back.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing, you're not required to play from point A to point B. You can go anywhere in the middle of it.
Sure.
Skip around and cut it up and move that. And there's everything is not fixed in time like it is on a tape.
Right.
So I had a tape recorder when I was 8, and I started learning how to record a 1/4-inch analog tape when I was 8 years old. So by the time I got into music, I kind of knew what tape was all about.
Yeah.
I never had to align a machine, which for those who don't know means you have to run a test tone through it and make sure the meters are responding correctly to what input signal is, and it's different for different kinds of tape formulations and yada yada like that. It's really black art, actually.
Wow.
I never learned to do that, but I've seen it done many, many times. And most younger engineers have no clue about that because they don't have any experience handling tape.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to get now is the sound of tape in their digital workstations. And there are now plugins that put back in all the stuff that everybody
Tried to
raved
get out.
was out finally, like noise,
Yeah.
hiss,
Yeah.
flutter, wow,
Wow.
all these analog quirks went out with digital, and people miss them and they want them back. So you can buy plugins that restore all that crap to the sound.
Yeah,
It's very weird. I've seen plugins that put in a 60 cycle hum.
Yeah.
When you don't have one.
Yeah.
Because they think that adds a little authenticity to the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's
it's like a parody of something.
It's what it is.
Yeah,
exactly. It's a parody. It's an imitation.
Yeah.
And putting 60 cycle hum in your track is not going to make it more Motown sounding.
Yeah, exactly.
How much you think it will.
Yeah.
There is that big argument about whether the digital is real or whether it's and the old commercial was, is it real or Memorex? And
what do you mean by that exactly?
You're too young. Jeez, are you too young? It's Memorex was a brand of cassette tape.
Okay, yeah.
And they used to run a commercial back in the 70s where they'd have Ella Fitzgerald singing and then play this cassette tape of her, and you'd go, is it real or is it Memorex?
Oh.
Well, in real life, Memorex doesn't sound anything like real, and it never did. But on a TV commercial, it can.
Mm-hmm.
So is it real or Memorex became like a thing at the time.
Got it.
God, am I aging myself? I am.
No. So are you doing any touring or live performance these days, Brad?
All I'm doing is playing piano downtown every once in a while in a new hotel.
Okay.
Jazz piano.
All right.
No tours and no other live gigs at the moment anyway. And so I'm currently just working on a mixing project for somebody.
Okay.
And a couple of arrangements I have to work on. A few little odds and ends. Nothing big, but big enough for me to put in full amount of time to do. And I really enjoy doing it. So
Right. So being in Nashville and I once again I just want to say so grateful for you making the time not only to
it's my pleasure
speak with me on Wednesday but today as well. Really appreciate it. I mean I've just I feel like the listeners will really enjoy this episode.
I hope so.
Also, I've learned a lot.
Chuckle out of it.
I've learned a lot.
My goal in life is to get somebody to laugh at least once, and
that's a worthy pursuit.
I think in the current climate of things in this country these days, laughing is a great medicine.
It sure is, and you actually sort of you're going right where I wanted to go here, just briefly, kind of in closing, and it's not necessarily to dwell too much on, I think, what you're suggesting, and I think what we all feel, which is this sense of fragmentation, division, frustration, and it comes in all sorts of different forms. But I'm wondering, as it relates to, what you and I do primarily in this world as musicians and performers, creators, I'm wondering what your take is on kind of the current, I guess, social, maybe not specifically political landscape, but the world we live in, and maybe how you see our place as musicians and creatives. Like, is it just, are we just here to provide some relief and provide the party, or, is there a place for having more difficult conversations, or is it somewhere in between, or is it something else? It's something that's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, I think entertainers, I have a hard time thinking of myself as an entertainer, but that's essentially what we do when we perform for people. I think the best way entertainers can serve their audience is to be honest and true to their own musical beliefs, whatever they are, and not pander. I have a big problem with people who pander on stage. They just kind of suck up to the audience and let the audience almost determine what kind of a show they give. I've seen this too many times. And musicians are easily led around politically if they let themselves be. All artists are. Because
the audience captures them, you mean, or what? In what way?
Well, in the sense that politics and social developments and the moral culture of what's going on, and all this book banning, for example, that's going on in various places, and that's just the first step towards a totalitarian culture.
Sure.
Where other people decide what will entertain you. is being decided by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the artist's responsibility to fight back against that and be true to what he or she believes
Mm-hmm.
is their art. And everybody I know personally is that way. They do their thing. They're not interested in politics
Mm-hmm.
that much. They're not interested in getting into that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are kind of living in a sort of a cold civil war these days. This
Mm-hmm.
country is sort of kind of sliced down the middle, and it's been that way for a couple decades, I think.
It feels like that. It feels like it's getting worse.
Yeah, it's a cold civil war that's heating up, and it could get hot.
Mm-hmm.
Every possibility of that, or it could come to his senses and not. It's hard to say. But the artist has to kind of navigate through that without getting influenced by it and be true to their art and do the thing that they do or that they want to do, regardless of all that. And as long as we still maintain a democracy in this country, they will be able to do it.
Sure.
Whether we can maintain a democracy, that's an open question, I think.
Yeah.
But at least for now, artists still have the freedom to do whatever art they want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the primary responsibility of an artist, is to be faithful to their view of whatever art it is that they're doing.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. I that's well said.
Without getting into any political issues that ruffle anybody's feathers out there, which I don't want to do. But
I agree with you. I certainly support that message.
Yeah.
I had also not heard the term. What did you say? You said cold. No, you said cold. It wasn't Cold War, but you were
cold civil war.
Cold Civil War. Yeah, and I hadn't heard that yet, but that is how it feels. You're absolutely right, and I think that's also a function.
Gunfire, at least not much.
Not much, and not yet, but it's a function of technology driving us into our echo chambers, and that's why it feels like a cold civil war.
Yeah,
you're right,
and it's not region specific. It's like two countries in the same territory.
On the same block, often.
In the same block, or even in the same house sometimes.
Yep. Yeah.
And they are diametrically opposed to each other in philosophy and ideology.
Yeah.
And so far, we've maintained an uneasy truce up till now. And we hope we can keep that going, because it could go in many, many different directions. And a lot of those directions are really scary.
Agreed.
But anyway, we all pray that we don't go there.
Yes.
And music is one of the things that keeps us from going there.
Amen to that. I wanted to ask you one more question before we sign off here today,
sure.
Brad, and that is your social media handles. I find to be quite amusing.
That's the point.
And what are they? What are they, Brad?
That's my second career as kind of an online wit.
I love it.
It's what I use Facebook for, is just to write my funny observations about stuff. Hopefully they're funny.
I love it.
When I got into Facebook a long time ago, that immediately started being kind of a spitball fight with people over politics.
Yeah.
You remember those days?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody was just yelling at each other. I got so tired of that, and I was guilty as anybody of doing it.
Yeah.
And I repent.
Well, me too.
Now
for a while, but then you realize how many minds actually got changed, and you're like, okay,
it's such a waste of energy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I went through a time when I purged people that I didn't want to have these arguments with, got them off of my Facebook feed, and decided to use Facebook to maybe make people who followed me have a laugh or two now and then.
Yeah.
And I put up funny stuff that makes me laugh, and hopefully will make other people laugh. But I put up my song parodies are on Facebook. Some of my funny observations. Well, maybe I'm being too kind to myself to say that they're funny, but I think they're funny.
Oh, I've definitely seen
observations about some things, and if I can make a pun that's funny, good. Yeah. I keep myself amused, and it also keeps my brain from getting too atrophied at my age.
I love
to work on stuff like this. Yeah. But I put up today 2 cartoons. One was a Gary Larson Far Side, and one was a political cartoon about Trump. And I thought they both were really funny. I
look forward to taking a look at those.
But that's sort of like my other non-paying career, is to write funny material. And I think I mentioned earlier on that there's a book coming.
Yes, you did. Do you want to
And
say
the
anything
book-
more about that, or how
Well,
can people make
I
sure
have
they
to
don't
watch
miss
out
that?
because I have been telling everybody I'm writing this book for about 2 years, and I haven't started writing it yet. I tell them it's already written in my head,
Sure.
but none of it's on paper. And so I have to block out some time to actually do the actual writing of it.
Yeah.
But because I've told so many people about it, I damn well better write the book because otherwise I'm going to look stupid.
I'll hold you to that,
I
man.
don't.
I'm looking forward to reading it.
And it's about, as I said before, it's about a guy who went to LA with very little self-confidence into a profession where self-confidence is almost required, and somehow navigated the music business and did pretty good by it.
Yeah.
How did that happen? So that's the basic plot line of the book, but it's going to be mostly, hopefully, amusing stories about how I got through the LA music scene over 28 years.
Yeah.
And there won't be any juicy gossip about other artists or Phil or anybody other than that affects me. It's
Sure.
going to be about my foibles, not theirs.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't expect to get sued by
Yeah.
anybody.
Good.
And I'm hoping that people, even outside of the music business, can find it interesting and even funny.
Yeah.
So that's hopefully in the next year, I'm going to get this thing written and get it out there.
I very much look forward to that. Have you read Ben Folds' memoir, by the way?
Not his, no.
Oh,
but
my goodness.
I have read a few current ones like Donald Fagen's.
Yep. Nice.
It's really an interesting book. But no, I haven't seen Ben Folds' book.
It is absolutely amazing. Actually, hang on one second. It's right behind me. A Dream About Lightning Bugs. I think I told you on the last podcast, Ben Folds is just one of my all-time musical heroes.
What is that subtitle? A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons?
A Life of Music and Cheap Lessons. And I thought that I knew quite a bit about Ben Folds because I've been a fan for, since I was 14 years old. I did a songwriting workshop with him. I play a bunch of his songs. I know his catalog by heart, right? There were so many gems, not even just specific to music, although there was tons of that and plenty of awesome stories from the road. But there was just a lot of wisdom that came from that book.
I'm going to have to get that because I know him. Yeah. I know him from seeing him on TV quite a bit as a host.
He lives in Nashville too. Nashville piano
he does?
player. He does.
That's how out of this loop that I am. I don't know who's here.
Yeah.
But thanks. I will take a peek at that for sure.
Cool. Well, Brad, as I said before, I'm going to be in Nashville in November. Hope we get a chance to grab a coffee or hang out.
Let me know in advance. I'll make sure we have time to get together.
Awesome.
Definitely. And thank you so very, very much, Eric.
Oh man, Brad, thank you for your time. It's been
always a pleasure. Anytime you want to do this, I'm up for it. So
okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Right. See ya. Thanks for listening to this episode of Conversations for Convergence. If you'd like to support the show or any of my musical endeavors, the best way is by joining my Patreon at patreon.com/Eric Henry Andersen. Of course, sharing the episodes with friends and family and rating and reviewing the show wherever you listen to podcasts helps immensely. For all other things Eric Henry Andersen, be sure to sign up for my mailing list at erichenryandersen.com. That's ANDERSEN. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Eric Henry Andersen, and on X at E, H, ANDERSEN Music. Thanks for listening.